Call to order the pledge in a moment of silence. We have one or two pledge leaders here today.
We have two pledge leaders with us this evening. We have Gunnar Vanderslice with us, who's a second grader, and Harley Beagle, who's a fourth grader. So Gunnar and Harley, you could come up to this microphone right here in the center. And Harley, I'll put you in charge of pressing, there's a button there. Could you press it and it's gonna turn green? There you go. And we could all stand.
All right, guys, whenever you're ready. Yep, go.
2, 1. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, guys.
Thank you, great job.
Terry, roll call.
Mr. Brookhart.
Here.
Dr. Faulkner. Mr. Garman.
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Reichard.
Here.
Mr. Reichard Jr.
Here.
Mr. Umbriak.
Here.
Dr. Green.
Here. 1-3 minutes, August 7th, 2024, Committee of the Whole meeting. The board will take action to approve the meeting minutes from August 7th, 2024, Committee of the Whole, as presented.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard Jr.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 1-4 minutes, August 14th, 2024, board meeting. The board will take action to approve the meeting minutes from August 14th, 2024, board meeting as presented.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard Jr.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 2-1 reports. So we went through all of these in the Committee of the Whole. Does any of the committees listed here have anything to report additionally in the preceding week? All right, so if it's okay with the board, we'll move on from those. All right. 2-2, school board vacancy. There's been a school board vacancy created August 14, 2024 due to the resignation of Mr. Vognitz. The position was advertised as an opening on the board, and the deadline to submit the vacancy application was September 3rd, 2024. At this time, we have 2 Danville citizens who have applied for service on the board. I'm going to now outline the process which we will use to select a board member. So we will interview in order alphabetically by last name. Only the candidate currently interviewing will be in the room. I will tell them they have 3 minutes to answer the following question. We have 1 current vacant position on the school board. Please tell us why you are the best candidate to be appointed to this position. They'll be given 3 minutes to answer, strict. The floor will then be open to the board to ask follow-up questions. I ask that the board please keep the questions to the application itself or other pertinent topics. The candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer each follow-up question. I will then open the floor to discussion of both candidates after they have both gone through this process, and the board can take as long as they need to discuss said candidates. Since there are only 2 candidates applied, we will do a round robin with each member expressing their candidate of choice. This is not the formal vote. Mrs. Faust will call on each member. The member will simply state the candidate they prefer, and if interested, can state reasons why they prefer that candidate. If there's a clear winner, and in this case, since Dr. Faulkner is not here today, it'll be 4 or more expressed preferences. We will go to a vote on that candidate because 4 votes will be enough to put a person on the board. If the board is split on candidates, I will open up the floor to further discussion. If the board member desires, if any of the board members desire, they can request at that time to bring a candidate back for additional questions. We'll then have a second round of express preferences. Mrs. Faust will call on each member, and the member will simply state which candidate they prefer. If there's a clear winner with 4 or more express preferences, we'll go to vote for that candidate. It takes 4 in the final round to be elected to the board. We'll repeat this process 3 times if needed. If it becomes clear the board is unable to agree on a candidate, I will open up the floor for discussion of the board, and we'll walk through and discuss each candidate in alphabetical order, on the record in an open fashion. I will ask each individual board member for their thoughts on the candidate to be entered into the public record. If unable to fill the slot through this process, a vote will be held by the board to either 1, repeat the process again, starting with an open discussion of the candidates, or 2, terminate the process and allow the judiciary system to determine the board member, thus removing the process from the board's hands. We will continue this process until one member is appointed or the board votes to leave the process to the judiciary. You all received this process. This is actually essentially identical to the process that we've used previously, with the same question and the same process to try to keep it as fair as possible. Does anyone have any questions about the process before we open it and begin with the first candidate? No? All right. So,
Would someone go get a candidate out of the room across the hall, please?
I guess we're moving on to 3-1, interview of the candidates. I guess I should just say that. The current board will interview the 2 Danville residents who have applied for the school board position. The candidates will be reviewed in alphabetical order. Hi, welcome. Can you push the button on the microphone just so the light turns green so everyone can hear you? Great.
All right.
Mr. Gregg?
Yep. Good
Okay.
evening, everybody. The ones that don't know me, my name's Adam Gregg. I understand you guys are in the process of searching for an individual.
1 minute, sir.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes to answer the following question. We have 1 current vacant position on the school board. Please tell us why you are the best candidate for this appointed position.
Ready?
Mhm.
Okay. So I understand, you guys are in the process of searching for an individual to fill a vacant seat, remaining term of Mr. Vognutz. I'm a Danville resident, a 2001 high school graduate. The qualities that I would hope to bring to the board as a member of the community are integrity, common sense, dependability, open-minded, and a can-do attitude. My father and I are local business owners who've served our community for 22 years and counting. I'm currently and have been the manager of my son's baseball team for the past 3 years. What an enjoyable experience to be involved and interact with kids on and off the field. Years ago, I never gave much credit to what teachers do for all of our students and district as a whole until just a few short years ago. I'm beyond grateful for the way that they've created a positive atmosphere in our classrooms and making a huge impact on all of our children. If there are any teachers here tonight, I want to thank you for everything you do, and your sacrifices do not go unnoticed. I currently have 1 child of my own in the school district, and I feel like I can help be a voice for all of our children, our teachers, support staff, and even the community. Whether it's for a taxpayer's perspective, a parent, or a guardian throughout our district. I am a firm believer that education is a key for success for every single child. I want every child to have an outstanding education each and every day. As a school board member, I would do my best to help ensure that all of our children come out thriving for their next steps in their future. As a voice for school improvement, I understand the importance of strong inputs in our school and equally understand how outcomes are the ultimate measure of a school, a district, and a community. I would be here to listen to everyone's concerns, acknowledging their perspectives and addressing their objections. When presented with a problem, I will research and see what are the best possible and the best avenue for a solution. I want to thank you all for your time and your attention, and if appointed to this position, I'm ready to hit the ground running.
I will now open it up to questions from the board.
And if you haven't noticed, I'm a little nervous.
You're all right. Adam, I went through it 3 times and I was nervous every time. We get it. We get it.
I have a few questions if no one else has questions. So, reviewing your application, there's a few things about your application that I'd like to ask you questions about. So, the first one is, on the application, the question is, why are you interested in serving serving on the board as school director? And your response to that question was to help maintain the quality of education in the district. What does it mean to you to maintain the quality of the education in the district?
I mean, at the education level right now, you know what I mean? I think it's absolutely great, you know? I mean, you look at state standards and you know where the district is, you know, at the moment. You know, things look well. I mean, like I kind of mentioned in there, you know, I mean, I'm not here for just my own kid's education. I'm here for everybody's, you know, kid, whether you have a kid involved or not, you know what I mean? And I want to see things continue to build and, you know, move forward.
So, from your perspective, what kind of concrete actions does that mean? Like, what actions as a school board member would you take in order to help maintain the quality of education in the district?
You know, just to look into, you know, and see where we are as a district, you know, as far as, I mean, one thing that I, you know, would like to know and, you know, get more involved with is, you know, with the education as far as, you know, kids. There's sometimes that I feel like, you know, there's a larger sum of kids that may be falling behind. I don't know if there's any way or we as a school, you know what I mean, could help overcome, you know, some of the kids that are, you know, struggling at that point. Again, you know, I want every kid to have, you know, the best education as possible.
So, the second question that I have is, have you ever attended a school board meeting, either virtually or in person?
No.
My last question is, what do you consider, so on the application itself, there's the question, what do you consider to be 3 of the most pressing issues facing the district? You only put a single issue out of the 3. And first of all, I'm curious about that issue and what you meant by that issue. So the issue that you put there was transparency with the general public. How do you feel that the district and or the board is not currently transparent with the general public? And what would you suggest that we do differently to increase transparency?
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I think that there's no transparency. I mean, I think as a government entity, nowadays people are always second guessing and questioning, and I just think that, you know, as a district, I mean, so 2 years ago, there's been some emergency sakes, you know, and next thing you know, social media, you know, is out there and people are like, oh, well, did you hear this? Did you hear that? You know, I think personally that parents should be receiving, you know, phone calls and keep, you know, up to date of what is actually going on at that particular time rather than parents having to soul search and the he said, she said, you know. I just think that, you know, as a district, we could be a little more upfront of what's going on in our surroundings in the current district.
So what specific changes do you think you would make to communication policy? Because there currently is a fairly strict revised communication policy, which dictates that the way that we actually, through official channels, communicate with parents surrounding these things. And the current administration has actually followed those quite stringently.
Okay, well, I mean, I would just thought that, you know, again, you know, myself or my wife, I've actually, you know, had asked her, have you received any phone calls? I would have just thought that we would have been notified, and if it was something we were never directly notified, you know, myself, if I haven't received a phone call, then, you know, I apologize, then I'm overlooking something that obviously wasn't an issue.
So the question also asked for 2 other issues facing the district. Can you think of any other issues that we need to address as a board besides the issues of transparency?
I mean, currently at this time, no. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm going off of, I mean, the teachers, you know, the district. Obviously, if these teachers are, you know, doing what's asked and, you know, they're going above and beyond, I mean, obviously, you know, I think at this point we got a good, you know, supply of teachers, and I'm happy, you know, where our education level's at, you know, to move forward.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your
Can I ask
frankness and
can I
honesty.
ask a quick question?
Sure.
What level of communications do you feel that you should have with our teachers outside of that which impacts your own son, or just typical interactions that anyone would have with a teacher as a board member? What kind of interactions and communication would you anticipate having?
I mean, I think, you know, regardless of what goes on in the classroom or whatever, you know what I mean? I think we're here as a community, you know, whether you're a teacher or school board member, or, you know, or whatever, you know, I think that we should all be open and, you know,
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
thank you.
There is a possibility that we could call you back for more questions, so we'll let you know. Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Rowell. You have 3 minutes to answer the following question. We have one current vacant position on the school board. Please tell us why you are the best candidate for this appointed position.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you all for having me here. So my name is Jeff Rule. I think I'm the best candidate for the position. So I have two daughters right now. One just started kindergarten. The other is 15 months old. I really want to be involved more with the school district and with the community at large. And really just, you know, try to ensure that as a school board member, that we're implementing the best policies possible for their overall education. Education for them is definitely the most important aspect and what I would be most focused on. I've gone through, you know, a lot of the different school board meetings. I'm kind of just getting up to speed on everything. But it's fantastic to see all the work that the board has done, specifically around mental health. And I know one thing I was very impressed with as well, and happy to see, was just kind of diverse opportunities within the educational curriculum here at Danville. I know there's a new Ag and Family and Consumer Sciences, sorry, at the middle school? Okay. And I think having kind of those diverse educational opportunities for the students is super important. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to questions from the board itself. Anyone have questions for Mr. Rule? If you don't, I have a few.
You go ahead, I'll ask the same one that I asked, but you go ahead.
Perfect.
We'll stick with
So the
order.
first one I think you already answered. Have you ever attended a school board meeting, either virtually or in person?
Not live. I have gone back through several school board meetings just to kind of get up to speed on things.
So you've watched some of the school board
Correct.
meetings and you have some understanding of how the school board functions?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. So one of the questions we ask is, why are you interested in serving with the school board? One of the things that you wrote in there that I was interested in asking a question about is, I am deeply invested in creating an environment where all students can thrive. What does that mean to you?
I think every student has individual needs, and I think trying to understand those needs and implement new programs or, you know, different things so all students can kind of find their niche within the educational system is super important, because not all students are on the same track, but all students are equally important.
Thank you. The other question that we've asked all candidates is, what do you consider 3 of the most pressing issues facing the district? You gave 3 issues. I appreciate it. One of the ones that I'm most interested in is number 2, board and leadership stability. Stability in the district is vital for maintaining consistent policies, long-term planning, and effective governance. So from your perspective, there's been a lot of turnover on the board. What kind of things can we do in order to make the board more stable in that sense?
I mean, I personally answered that just because I'm kind of just getting more involved with my child starting kindergarten. So I would, you know, hopefully, if all goes well and I would get elected, I would, you know, really like to stick around for an extended period of time I think to make an impact, a director would have to be around for a significant amount of time.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask mine because I don't think it fits with the application.
Okay. I would like to open it up in general for any other questions from any other individual. Bob?
Mr. Rule,
Yes.
you had mentioned mental health. There's effort being put into mental health prevention. So if you could scale what is being done for mental health prevention as opposed to physical health prevention, is there a consensus as to what emphasis should be put on mental health and physical health? What's your feeling on that?
I think that the two are somewhat correlated, in my opinion. I think if you are physically well, your mental and emotional health will be better. So I do think there's kind of a relationship between both of them, and they both are equally important and one should pay attention to both of those. I don't think you can explicitly just focus on mental health and not worry about physical health. I think both are kind of intertwined.
Do you think there's more emphasis on mental health than physical health?
No, I think they're both equally relevant.
Further questions? Who else? Thank you, Mr.
The reason I say it too is because I'm a big runner, so I'm a big believer in physical activity, and for me that definitely helps my emotional and mental health as well. So just throw that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Rule. You may be asked back for additional questions.
Sure. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So I will now open the floor up to general discussion of the candidates. We can take as long as we need. Thoughts and opinions?
In my opinion, I think the messages between the two candidates were very similar as far as what they hope to achieve for the district. Presentation obviously was different. I think that has to come with backgrounds. But I think their message and their vision and direction of what they want to do as a director of the school board seems to be the same in my eyes.
So I'm going to utterly disagree. So one has not attended a single meeting, either virtual or otherwise. One did not finish filling out the application completely. And one of them, in the one answer they did give, could not give an articulated answer of why they put that answer. To me, there's clearly one candidate that is more qualified and better. The board can vote in any way that they feel that they need to, but there is clearly one candidate that actually did background research, spent some time investing in this, and finished the application and came out with an articulate answer for every question that was asked. And that was Mr. Rule. And I will openly and freely admit, I know Mr. Rule, but I'm not friends with him and I have no relationship with him.
I appreciate the interest that both men showed in coming out here tonight. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Gregg's a business owner in town. I think business owners bring a perspective that is very valuable to the district. I love Mr. Rule's answers. I like both of them. I did not like the fact that Mr. Gregg feels there's a transparency issue when he's never attended a board meeting nor has he
Correct.
watched one. It's kind of a difficult pill to swallow as a former educator that has heard the transparency claim several times and had to explain that we have millions of dollars and thousands of kids and hundreds of employees. We can't just walk to your home every time to tell you everything that happened. It just doesn't really work that way. So yeah, that put me off a little bit. But he's a business owner. He's been here for a long time. He's passionate. He cares about education. Mr. Rule does as well. So I think they're both great candidates, and I'll be happy to work with whichever one is chosen.
I will also work with whoever's chosen. I will also point out that Mr. Gregg has a conflict of interest from a business perspective, so it's another person who can't vote on certain things. Not that that is intrinsically disqualifying, but it's, have how many people are going to end up who can't vote certain financial things.
Why is the transfer why is a conflict of interest on your set of your saying?
Well, if you're not voting, it's not a conflict of interest technically. You're right, correct. Thank you for correcting me.
I'm not quite sure I'm following that
No, I'm
part.
not either.
No, I was just expressing that it's another person who cannot vote on certain things.
Why?
Because they have a business contract with, isn't that what he said on the,
No, Danville School District doesn't.
oh, I thought he said in his application that he does.
He's done he's done things for the district as
He's
far as
fixed a
making
lawnmower.
Ah, so
graphics,
maybe I
fixing
misunderstood
lawnmowers.
what he
Yeah,
wrote
you're
there.
on the wrong page.
Okay, because it sounded like he had a contract with the district, and so I was a little confused. I withdraw the comment then.
I think both of them, I mean, both of them have the same outlook and reasons for being here. I think as far as the application goes and sitting them in front of us for interviews, 110% has to do with their education and their background. I mean, one of them goes and works with probably hundreds of other people on a daily. The other one works with his father in a shop for 15 years.
Probably 10 people a day.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, I think it's, I mean, I don't base my decisions off of the character of people or, you know, their education or their background or, you know, the only thing that really draws me in the way of feeling, you know, I've been here for 31 years. So when somebody comes here and sits, that's lived here their whole life and has been involved in the community their whole life, that's, you know, I don't necessarily see how they wrote stuff down on paper or how they come and talk to us as much as I do their background and what they've done for the community and how long they've been here.
Yeah, but not actually filling out the application completely and not doing any research about what the board actually does. Those seems two.
I understand he
things.
went back and looked at school board videos. I get that.
I mean,
I respect that.
I mean, to be totally honest, I've never attended a meeting either before I got on. I watched them at home.
And both
yeah,
of them
but
have,
Facts.
you did watch them.
Yeah,
right?
I did.
both, sorry,
Yes,
both
that
of
was
them
the
have had
question I
several,
actually asked, is whether you'd watched them or came, right? You showed some interest prior to the position being open, actively participating or understanding what.
both of them had several opportunities before to run for the board, to be appointed to the board, and never have done that, so neither one really has the high road for their past involvement in the school board. That's how I
also
look
true.
at it. No offense to them, there's, you know, thousands of people don't want to do this, I understand why. But I do think that the message is not about, I'd be happy to work with either one of them, but in the future, I would hope that people would come in here that would have had a little bit more background than both of them and know a little bit more about what we really do.
I don't disagree. I mean, the pool is rather slim.
Yeah, be good for them, they're here,
Yeah.
you know, good for them.
All right, any further comment? So Terry, I'm gonna have you call for express preference, and then we'll go to a vote.
Mr. Brookhart,
Mr. Gregg,
Mr. Garman,
Mr. Gregg?
Dr. Green,
Mr. Rule?
Mr. Hoffman,
Mr. Gregg.
Mr. Reichard,
Mr. Gregg,
Mr. Reichard Jr.,
Mr. Gregg?
Mr. Umbriak.
All right, so we'll go to a vote. Looks like Mr. Gregg is the person.
5.
Terry will now do the formal vote. Sorry.
Sorry.
3.2, appointment of a director. The board will take action to appoint Adam Gregg as the director of the Danville Area School District to the board. The appointed director's term will begin in September 11, 2024. The new appointee will serve until the first Monday in December following the first municipal election that's scheduled for more than 60 days after the vacancy has occurred. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
second. I don't know if we need a second.
Second, Mr. Brookhart.
Yeah, I didn't know if we need one or not. If we do.
yeah.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. We can 3-1, oath of office. Laura Reno?
Tell Laura to bring,
Bring Mr. Gregg.
have her bring Mr. Gray.
This needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And knowing too well.
I will support, obey, and defend I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. That's good.
Congratulations. You make decals, don't you?
You need some?
I do.
You ready to put it in order?
Believe it or not, like the Danville, I've done that a lot of the, exit.
I have one of yours in the back of my car. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop for you right there.
Not alone anymore.
We're going to go to 3-4, appointment of committee vacancies.
There's CMAVTS.
So,
Finance and athletics.
Mr. Hoffman, Director of the Athletics.
Yeah. I don't have anything to report in there.
Oh, no, 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 I'm just
He's
Oh,
just
you're
saying.
appointing me? Oh, I got you. Got you, yes.
It's just the official appointment.
okay.
Where else are
Okay.
vacancies?
Finance.
Anyone want to do finance? Mr. Garmin, I think
No.
you'd be perfect for finance.
I'll take whatever you want me to do. If you have something nobody else wants, I'll take it. I'm not lobbying
I
for
think
it.
senior would be.
He's not
I
looking
think-
like he wants it.
I think Tyler
You're
just said
senior
you're
in every
fine.
way here.
Yeah.
Dr. Brookhart, would you? Finance?
Sure, yeah.
All right. And then what, CMAVTS?
Yes.
Craig, would you be willing to do that?
Why not?
Go with Mr. Garmin.
Yep, that's fine.
Perfect. Any other vacancies?
You got, how many people in finance with you? Just you? Okay.
All right, let's move on to the superintendent reports. For one, the enrollment report.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, you could move to the next slide. We were thankful to have Gunnar and Harley with us this evening for the pledge. If you go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you need?
Right there? Okay.
Excited that we're having student government leaders back with us again this school year. Tonight we have Chase Miller with us, who is the senior class treasurer, and Matt and Patrick, the senior class historian. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with us this evening, and we'll hear from them when we go to our administrator reports. They'll give us a student report as well. This evening, we do not have any board recognitions, but we do have board recognitions lined up for the year. So excited to get to share some of the great things that are happening in the school district with you throughout this school year. We will start in October with Mr. France and the Fire Club doing a presentation for us. Then next you'll see the enrollment report. I did include like where things ended last year, August and September. I did indicate last month that those numbers often do some changing between August and September. Kind of two of the changes we often see are we do see increased enrollments, people that have moved to the area that hadn't yet registered for school. We also see that there are varying starts to the school year across the country. So if someone has moved, they might have still been in our system in August and since moved somewhere else. So you'll see the numbers for the primary school in Valley. And Mr. Ryan, if you take us to the next slide, you'll see the middle school, high school, and CMAVTS. And then if you go one more slide, Mr. Ryan, you will see our non-public enrollment report. You also sometimes see changes here from August, September, depending on when a Christian school would start. People would get homeschool paperwork in, those types of things. If you go to the next slide, Mr. Ryan, the only item that I have today, in addition to just administrator board reports, is did just want to share with board members. I had sent you a link for our 23-24 year in review. You all do have a physical hard copy of that magazine in your folders to enjoy. And we have shared this electronically with all of our families. It's available on our website, and it is available in all of our school offices. So we're excited to just celebrate the great things that happened in the 23-24 school year. We have it divided by academics, the arts, community engagement, and our athletic accomplishments. It certainly was a very successful school year, and we're excited for the 24-25 school year to start and to have another one of those year in reviews in the future. I'll turn things over now to Dr. Gump, who's going to start our administrator board reports.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So the main thing for this month was I wanted to inform the board and community that guidance and administration in the office have begun meetings regarding essentially Act 158 progress for our students. And so what that means is every student, in addition to passing the grade level standards and credits at the high school, they also have to, through keystones, through alternate assessments, through other ways, be able to achieve graduation status that way. So again, I'm pleased to inform the board and the community that the guidance department and Bobby, Mr. V, and myself, we've met multiple times so far. So tomorrow is our last meeting, and essentially after tomorrow's meeting, we'll have reviewed basically every senior and every junior and their status. And essentially, we're coming up with an individual plan for them if they haven't met Act 158 requirements. We're coming up with ways that we can get them there. So that was a stress. Of course, last year we stressed that very much, but the fact that we have a good jump on this year and have a good plan for our juniors and seniors to help them through, I'm really pleased about the progress we're making with that. And I guess additionally, we're transitioning from almost like a Google Sheet tracking of that to using Sapphire, which is our student information system for that, and that has been an amazing improvement. And I just want to thank Jeff Ryan, Nick Truax for their work in technology to make that happen for us, because we now have that at our fingertips. So I think that is a nice leap in the right direction that way. At this time, I'll hand it over to our student representatives.
Hello, my name is Matt Patrick, and I'm the senior class historian. I would just like to touch on a few things we did in the past as class officers. So as class officers, or junior class officers at the time, we helped with graduation and doing the slideshow. And we helped set up and helped visitors find their seats along with finding the program. We all understand that the screen for graduation cost a lot of money, but it looked great seeing graduating students walk across the stage in front of that screen. Later in this year, we have some ideas for graduation, including the addition of more paper programs. Also, I'd like to touch on the painted senior parking spots. Many seniors painted their parking spot, and it was a fundraiser for the senior class, and we encourage more students to do it next year. And also, we highly recommend everybody to take a drive by the lot closest to the auditorium and look at those painted parking spots. As class officer and a member of SGA, I am most looking forward to prom because I like the overall, or I like to see this junior and senior class put together an effort in decorating and seeing the overall outcome of the venue at prom.
I'm Chase Miller. I'm the senior class treasurer, and I did talk about what's coming up in the year. So in a couple weeks for homecoming, we have a carnival the day before on the Friday. We help run that carnival. Each class has a different stand where they sell food, drink. This year, as seniors, we have a dunk tank that myself and Matt and the rest of the officers will be sitting in. And we also sell mac and cheese as well, because we did it last year and it worked out great. So we're doing that again. And for fundraisers this year, we just finished our braided bread fundraiser. And then we're coming up on our homecoming clothing this year. And we will use this profit from those fundraisers for our senior class trip at Pocono Valley. As a class officer and member of SGA, I'm most looking forward to graduating because I feel like the Danville Area School District has done a great job of preparing me for the future, and I'm very excited to test myself and the knowledge I've gained through the school into the real world.
Thank you, gentlemen. So one of the things I just want to highlight from our school community and culture events, last Friday we had Dunkin' Donuts generously came to the school. They came last year and gave gift cards out to all of our students, which was absolutely amazing. And then this year they came back. We weren't able to line up the truck that they were bringing last year, so they came back and did basically a lunchtime giveaway with samples of drinks and refreshers that they had, and then they also gave $5 gift cards to all the students again. So that was, again, extremely generous from the Dunkin' Donuts company, and they've actually asked if they could come back again at some point, so we'll probably have them back.
Turn to the middle school.
Good evening, everyone. What I'd like to highlight this evening, so last week we dove headfirst into our first diagnostic assessments of the year. It's the first year that we've done the NWEA MAP testing at the middle school. We're very fortunate that Liberty Valley actually has a full year under their belt, so they, big thanks to Dr. Reinard for kind of helping us navigate some of that. She's been great kind of guiding us along. So we are, for the most part, done with that first round. We have a few students that we're still catching up. I would also, in that same breath, like to give a shout out to our tech department, specifically Nick Truax, who really spent a lot of time at the middle school as we worked through these first rounds of testing to make sure everything went really smoothly, which it did. So thank you to all of them. Teachers now have that first round of data in their hands. We're in the process of starting to analyze and disseminate the data, create student groupings and instructional remediation groupings that should very quickly be getting put in place. We worked very hard yesterday with Ms. Wenrick as we kind of dove into some of that as well. So this hopefully assessment data will give us a really great starting point when we look at individual and small group instruction in our classrooms. One final thing I would like to add, more kind of on the facilities. If you drive by the middle school, we have a new playground in the almost 100% complete at this point. They started putting it together yesterday morning and are really almost done. So once we have that, the mulch and the border in, middle school students, of course, and then anyone that comes to the community park will have a really nice new playground to be able to use as well. So please come check it out. It's pretty awesome looking.
Thank you, Dr. Snover. Dr. Reinard?
Thank you. We're off to a really great start at Liberty Valley. We implemented a new PBIS system for our best expectations. It is an online reward system where our students earn points throughout the day for doing, for being their best. So we spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year making sure that the students understand expectations, modeling them, just basically living these expectations. And we have everybody from, our beloved custodian to, I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Garman. He's taken the leap and is one of our bus drivers that is utilizing the program. So trying to just make sure every adult in the building has the opportunity to reward our kiddos for doing the right thing. and just making it a place where the kids know that like we're on their side and we're seeing when they do the good things and we're seeing when they open doors and pick up trash and like just being a good person, it doesn't go unnoticed. So that's been really important for us at Valley this year at the start. We have a new PBIS store that's going to be opening in a week where the kiddos can use their points to purchase things at the school store. So really excited about that. But I think one of the most important things that I just wanted to touch on, you know, Mr. Moser spent a lot of time during our last board meeting going over our PSSA data. And I think it's really important, especially, you know, Mr. Gray had mentioned us being transparent as administrators. And I think it's really important for our families to know that, you know, we do stress that these tests are so important, and they are really super important because we've spent so much time already this school year at Liberty Valley taking the scores that we're getting from our students and taking the scores that Mr. Moser presented to the board and really breaking those scores down and looking at, you know, where our students are, what their strengths are, what their needs are, using our PSSA scores to determine where we're going to start teaching at the beginning of the year, breaking them down, looking at, okay, just because a kid comes into us and it says that maybe they're below basic on their PSSAs doesn't mean that kiddo is below basic in everything. They have areas where they're really, really strong, and we need to make sure that we're hitting and educating every single student where they're coming to us at. So we're spending a lot of time at Liberty Valley looking at this data. And you know, today we had a session where we were looking at MAPS data. So we're really data driven at Liberty Valley and just making sure that we're not just asking kids to test, we're taking those scores and really making sure that we are hitting every single kid at Liberty Valley. You know, Mr. Gregg, you have a son in 3rd grade. We know where he is. You know, tomorrow he's being educated in a small group based on where he showed up on that score. Dr. Green, same thing. I mean, Emmy, she's getting what she needs. So really making sure that we're
she needs a lot.
She's awesome. So just making sure that the kids aren't just coming to us and it's just not a blanket 3rd grade instruction. It's what do our students need. So I just thought it was important for everybody in the community to know that those tests we're not giving them in vain. Like, we really care about those scores. So just.
Thank you, Mrs. Earp. I feel like it gets to me and I just reiterate a lot of things. But I'll say at DPS, we are officially in the swing of things. Honeymoon phase is over and we're in it. So as I've been observing in hallways and in classrooms and checking in, it really has been incredible to see the teamwork that's been going on, that's been developed and really strengthened at the building. And that's all faculty. That's secretaries, that's our custodians, that's our special ed teachers working with regular ed working with their teams to just ensure that we're setting our students up to be their best. This week, we also finished our final diagnostic. So tomorrow's our last day, Friday's our makeup, which will give us our 3rd data point. Again, like, we are analyzing that data, looking at fluency, looking at growth, looking at the iReady math scores. Everything has run very smoothly, and again, that's thanks to the teamwork from the tech department, our reading teachers helping our classroom teachers. Everything was just super smooth with it being a new program. So we're really excited now as a team to dive into that data and just be very analytical. My teachers and I began spreadsheets individually for their classrooms so that we can set growth goals and so that we can get some of those actionable steps to move forward with the baseline data. I just want to also note, like, NWA is new, but I just want to say I think it's a very powerful program that we have adopted as a district. And that's just to say, like, it's not just providing the intervention services to our students, but it's also allowing us to look at students who are at grade level or above so we can continue to push them beyond. So just really excited to work with my team moving forward. Thanks. Thank you, Mrs. Earp. Mrs. Marshall.
Okay, in Head Start, our attendance incentive started off with a bang, which was really exciting. So we had 6 out of 6 classrooms earn a theme that the children chose. For getting 85% or higher in attendance for the overall classroom. And we had 82 out of 86 children earn the 85% attendance, so that's about a 95%. So in August, we educated the parents. We had an open house, a parent orientation to let them know the importance of attendance, and to also talk about the incentive and what their child can earn as well as them. The other thing I wanted to mention was for the 5th year in a row, we have earned PBIS through the state for fidelity, which we are very excited about. So our expectations in Head Start is be safe, be kind, be respectful. I love when the kids talk about the expectations, and then they'll be like, be respectful. And I love that they know those three expectations and they can repeat them and say them. So we're just really proud that this is the 5th year in a row that we have earned the PBIS with fidelity.
Thank you. And Ms. Wenrick, special education.
So things are getting put into place in the world of special education and interventions, and we will be very well off on next month when Ms. Delgado joins us full time. So we're very excited about that. But we are in the process of, in the special ed world, we are creating a district-wide process, which we've created and we've implemented and shared with school counselors for 504 plans at the last PD day. And we wanted to put that into place to ensure compliance and continuity of services. And along with that, we've created acknowledgement forms for 504 plans and IEPs to make sure that when the document is distributed to teachers, that the documents are actually being followed, and we are staying within our compliance. And we are at, like Dr. Snover had mentioned and Dr. Reinard, we are in the process of deep diving into that data so that we can start the implementation of interventions, which is the next part of special education and interventions. And then upcoming pieces of information. Tomorrow we start the whole process of a state audit for transition at the upper grade levels, ages 14 and above. We have a training that we will be attending tomorrow to start that process, so we will be monitored this year by the state. And fiscal training is next week, so that's going to be some fun times too.
Thank you. And then finally, Mr. Ryan in technology.
Well, just real quick, it has been a very productive summer, and we did a lot of things, and it's been a good start to the year. So, it's very rewarding hearing all the things that are happening within the district, because there's a lot of things that happen in the background that no one knows about. But when you hear all the great things that are happening within the buildings with data and all the test taking and things that are done through the network and done with technology, it's really rewarding for us to hear those great things are happening. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Green.
5-1, public comment, max of 3 minutes only, agenda items only. Seeing as how there's no one from the public. Speaking of not attending. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, on to 11. 11.1, finance reports for your perusal. 11.2, August 2020 financial reports for your perusal. 11.3, August cash receipts for your perusal, and then on to a voting issue. 11.4, bills for payment, August 9th, 2024 through September 5th, 2025.
Motion.
2024, whoa. If only we,
We
could
didn't
pay,
get that
pay
far.
the rest right now for the
Nice.
same price.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Great.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Abstain.
Mr. Reichard Jr.,
Abstain?
Mr. Umbriak,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 12.1, personnel consent items. The board will take action to approve 12.2 through 12.19. Please take a moment to peruse them and see if there's any you would like to remove from consent.
Yeah.
Anything? I'm seeing no's. All right. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Great.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak,
Good.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 13, policy and insurance. 13.1, policy and insurance consent items. The board will take action to approve policy and insurance items 13.2 through 13.11. Please take a moment and see if there's anything you would like to remove from that.
All of the policies somehow connected to the Title IX regulations, or some of them?
They,
I've really taken the time to look through them. If it were a
Yes.
second reading, I'd have spent more time
I
on
say
them.
they are all first readings. There is one, sorry, it is item 13.9,
Okay.
policy 807. We were just putting the Title 1 and 9 ones on this agenda. However, that specifically had to do with the moment of silence connected to 9/11, and so that is in here as well. So 13.9 is not related.
The other ones are?
Well, the main ones that are 103 and 104. It just changes slight language in the additional ones. So 103 and 104 are the key policies connected to that. There are just some slight changes that were affected in the additional ones.
I will remind everyone, this is just the first reading. There will be a second reading, so if you find something that we'll have that opportunity.
We possibly, before we do a second approval and reading, get some questions, if we have them, run through Carl or Jennifer or somebody from their office. I'm fine voting for it. I'll probably vote for it tonight, but I'd like to know a little more before we vote it the second time to see if.
Sure,
any
I'd
of
be
these-
happy for them to share something. They do come directly from PSBA and
Yeah,
to have gone through our attorney as well.
Not necessarily a selling point with me
Sure,
that they come
that's
through
fair.
PSBA, but okay, I understand.
And we're recommended by our solicitor, but I
Got it.
can have them
Yeah, I know
share,
he's
share a different
training on the Title
additional
IX piece a lot.
information.
I'm just kind of curious on where some of these things stand in terms of if there's still further appeals on them, and at what point we should actually be putting them in our policy if they haven't been through the final legislative process, whether it makes sense to do that.
Seems
We'll
to be the
probably
reason.
say yes, but I'd still like to ask the questions.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Gregg.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard Jr.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 14.1, 2024-2025 bus driver list. The board will take action upon recommendation of the superintendent to approve the bus driver list for the 2024-2025 school year as presented, pending the receipt of all required clearances and documentations. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Abstain.
Mr. Reichard Jr.
Abstain.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mr. Gregg.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 15.1, board concerns and items for the next meeting. Brookhart?
I got a couple, you always know.
I'm
Yeah.
turning straight to you, bud.
Well, first of all, Geisinger dropped the appeal apparently on the
Yes.
parcels. I think there were 10 of them, and we talked about this a little last week.
We did?
We actually knew before we said anything publicly that that had happened, but we didn't want to announce it at that point. It was a little premature that they had at least filed these appeals. And I'm paraphrasing here in one of the papers. I saw their spokesperson said it was just kind of their due diligence to make sure that they were not paying too much.
We have the author of the article in the room.
Yes, thank you. Is that?
I didn't see yours.
Is that pretty accurate, what they said? That they have to do periodically, make sure they're not overpaying? Okay. From our perspective, we need to do the same. I believe, and I think because there has been a ruling in the nonprofit case down in Pottstown, and there's some other cases that are following along with that down, believe in Chester County, we really need to be diligent to make sure that we're following through to make sure they're paying as much as they should pay. And if they want to sit down and talk with us about that, we can do it. And if we need to follow that case a little further and see what the ramifications are for us, I don't think we should drop it just because they dropped the appeals. And they did file the appeals before there was a comment in the meeting. Could you Verify that, Mr. Moser?
That is correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So when and I made the comment, we knew the appeals had been filed. That's my position on that. So hopefully we stay diligent on following what's going on and protect our community and taxpayers. I think Geisinger is great. Love having it here. Fantastic doctors, great place to have, great for the community. But every dollar they don't pay that they should is somebody else's burden. That's my position on it. Anybody else? Just me? Anybody agree or not agree?
No, I
or
agree.
No, I
agree.
I agree with you. I mean,
that's our job
Yeah.
to make sure those things are being done appropriately. So
I'm not throwing criticism of what they do. They're fantastic. It's wonderful to have them here. I wouldn't want to not have them here, but there was a charter a long, long time ago, and there's some things that were supposed to be followed through upon, and if they're not, it's our responsibility.
yeah, I mean, one of our obligations as the school board is to make sure we're doing the most for our taxpayers.
we'll certainly do our due diligence in making sure we get clear answers.
Other concerns?
Yeah, the second thing I had, actually 3 things here. 2 of them worked off of last week. The middle school softball came up, and I didn't remember it, but this came up a while ago, and it appears that we're one of the very few that does not have softball. And I think, yeah, it's like 17 out of 19 in Heartland have it.
Yep.
And we're one of the 2 that does not. So not that we necessarily have to do what everybody else does, but at least you know you can get a schedule. And I think the more we can do for I think the PIAA refers to them as junior high. We have a middle school, but junior high sports, because it starts at 7th grade, not 6th grade. The more we can do to get kids at that age into activities that are healthy and great for not only their mental health but physical, it's good, and it's an investment that's worth making. And I feel the same way about volleyball down at that level, and I think we really should put them on the fast track to at least get us information that the board's approving, not approving. That's up to every individual board member. I just want to make sure from the board perspective it doesn't get stalled due to logistics or whatever the case may be. We know we're kind of landlocked with fields and space, and it gets tight here sometimes, but we can work things out. We always have.
We do plan on bringing that to the board in October for sure, based on the conversation last week and just some numbers. There are 20 schools between the PHAC and the Mid-Penn League that have middle school girls softball. So just like you stated, there certainly would be plenty of game opportunities. Last spring, 38 middle school girls responded to a survey, and 25 indicated they'd be interested in participating in it. So we also have numbers that could certainly warrant that. And in terms of middle school girls volleyball, right now Williamsport and Central Mountain have middle school programs. But the high school program's really rapidly growing, so I would anticipate the middle school program rapidly growing in the area as well.
Yeah, and I just think we should be careful not to wrap ourselves totally into Heartland with some of these things as well, because I know historically volleyball has been very popular in the northern tier and very popular in the coal regions and very popular in Luzerne County, but not so much here. Now it's starting to grow rapidly.
Seems to be growing, yes.
So we talked about, I think it was middle school lacrosse, and how we were going to try to work with schools in Harrisburg and all, and I just want to get out of the mindset that if it's volleyball, that there has to be a lot of schools within 10, 15 miles. There are creative ways to do that. Play on weekends, play aborted schedules, maybe you play 8, 10 games just to get started. Other districts tend to pick up. Unfortunately, we watch what everybody else does. They watch what we do as well. If everybody's sitting here saying nobody has it, then nobody's ever going to get it. That's just kind of the way it works. So I'm an advocate. I'm one person, but I just think it's great for the kids.
It would be interesting to look at the Schuylkill League in particular.
I'm sorry,
It would be interesting to see specifically at the Schuylkill League, because I know that area in particular.
Yeah, it's popular there, and I go back to what we said last year when it was varsity volleyball. I know these things cost money, then it's prioritize the programs and allocate based upon your priorities. Maybe there are things that we're already doing now that don't have that much value. If you just look at these things as an add-on, a lot of times they never get done, because you're going to be looking at a deficit every year. That's the way public schools work. You need to look at your entire programmatic district and see if this fits and it's more important than other things. And if it's just an add-on, then it's just an add-on. But sometimes there's other things you can shed and bring something in that's more valuable.
It's certainly important to have the developmental feeder for the high school. More opportunities is better than less. I mean, that's the principle that you and I have always agreed on. Seems like a win-win.
Oh, and B, you know, newly appointed, I agree 110%. You know, coaching baseball and stuff, you know, the younger kids, the numbers are finally coming back. But, you know, you start getting into the senior league levels, you know, at that 6th and 7th grade, the numbers aren't there, you know, and it's unfortunate that, you know, boys and girls are missing out the opportunity, and I think they all deserve that opportunity. So I'm totally for all of it.
Kids are all going to look for ways to connect, especially at middle
yeah.
school and junior high, and that's the better way for them to do it than some of the others.
Third issue?
That was 2 and 3.
Okay.
Softball,
Softball,
volleyball.
I was listening. I was keeping
I'm
track.
done. I'm done.
Oh, and one thing when whoever had mentioned about the Heartland Conference, I mean, I can be in agreement with that, you know. I mean, like a prime example, my son plays T-rail or football. I was kind of shocked to know that we got to travel to Hazleton, you know what I mean, for 8 and 9-year-old kids. I mean, I think the conference is wonderful, but, you know, back in the day, you stuck to your local areas, you know, and when you're playing, you know, 4 games are involved in a Sunday, you know, so, you know, not as, you know, the travel time, but then you're there, you know, all day. So, I mean, the Heartland, it's great, but I think it's something to really weigh your odds as well.
Looked like you had an issue.
Yeah, I just wanted to see, I mean, I guess it's more of a question than an issue. Was anything looked at for track protection to open the end zone for
So
a football game?
I'm hoping to be able to bring numbers for what that would cost to us in October. So Mr. Garman had
And
mentioned that historically people were in the end zone. Is that right?
Yeah, I talked to Jason a little bit. I just want to thank whoever was involved in getting the other gate open, because I mean, quite honestly, tired of being bombarded about it. But I mean, I think it'll be helpful.
Glad you
I
could
mean,
be helpful.
yeah, people don't have to walk around the stadium to get in. But when I talked to him about it, I know the other end of, I mean, historically it was the close end zone, but obviously that will need more protection from the track material than the other end zone does. So, I mean, just so everybody's on the same page of, you know, what should be looked at or what
Sure.
wanted to be looked at.
So my best understanding is that prior to the track going in, end zones were a place where people could watch the game, and
Yes.
so there's been some interest expressed. So the track obviously goes around the field, but what's in the different end zones is one side is a high jump and pole vault, and one side is a long and triple jump.
Yep.
And we obviously just don't want damage
Yep.
to those facilities.
Yep.
They do sell coverings that teams use, like when they cross the track and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're just pricing out how much those kind of coverings are and how much would be needed for each side of the track.
Can I ask one question real quickly? Maybe I missed something with the new tennis courts, the ones up at the high school. Are we having any success in pursuing anything in terms of a warranty with that particular facility? Because at one point, I don't think we were able to find any records of that. Is that
So
true?
where we are sort of legally is that we didn't have records to determine the difference between laying the ground and the painting, and each company is saying the other one is at fault. The attorney does have that information, but what we were we've put out the bid for it to be resurfaced, but then looking to see if we could recoup that cost. But we are missing paperwork.
Okay. What are we doing going forward? Shouldn't those things have been electronically transmitted to us? Do we have some procedure in place to make sure this doesn't happen in the future? Because I think it happened maybe even before you were here, Dr. Need, with the track, that we didn't have the proper documentation, warranties, whatever the case may be. I would think that all those things would be in an electronic format and they could be recoverable, but maybe I'm wrong. But if they're not, then are we making sure that in the future they will be, that we don't have the same issue? And I know the two of you weren't even here for some of those
Yeah,
things.
no, the challenge particularly with the tennis courts, we have the warranty information. What we do not have is an actual detailed clerk's record of
between the
dates.
two levels.
the dates
dates,
of the
application.
the finalization of the asphalt, and then when the painting, because there is a time period that needs to lapse in order for that warranty to stand. We do not have
Those dates.
any documentation of when one job was finished and the next one started.
Okay.
And
What
Mr. George is keeping daily
We're gonna make
logs
sure that
when
doesn't happen
a
again.
project happens now. So that should that.
What if, as
This kinda
far
s-
as payments on that, how was that released? Was the payments prior to the jobs being done or after? Is there any way to go back through the financial end of it, of when that was paid?
We could certainly bring information about when it's paid, but it has been paid now for several years.
Yeah, you're
But we
looking
could.
about, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please, Mr.
'Cause
Burkhart.
I was on the board
Yes,
then, I know you
please.
weren't here yet. A lot of times with projects, you retain money, but with this one, I don't think the problem came along until long after it was already completed, and they had substantial completion punch list, everything done. So at that point, everything has been paid out, so there's not a whole lot
I
of
just
money.
didn't know, you know, if
Yeah,
there was
it's a good
another way to
question.
track it down.
Right.
What I will say now is right now, when projects are not completed to satisfaction, we do withhold payment and put it in writing and explain exactly why.
No, but it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, what you're suggesting is the final payment date would be the date where the court was completed. That's what you're
Exactly, to go back if there was track record.
I don't think it necessarily works that way.
Well,
for the way that we pay and pay bills.
Yeah, we would have, well, we could certainly probably find the invoice.
Right.
But the problem is that if that invoice was done 4 days after the job was completed, like, we wouldn't be able to determine exact, because we are probably talking about a very specific number of days.
Right, like it needed to set longer.
Like it needed
so
to
we're
settle
not-
for
like
90
we need an
days before
exact.
there
And if
was
we're
the
at
application.
87 or 90, makes a difference in the warranty perhaps. But we may not be able to forensically put that together, but we could certainly
But
try.
I mean, so the one thing is, interestingly, if you do have the invoice which says that, and it is beyond the total number of length when it was painted, then you do have some idea that it's probably the painting guys and not the.
Yeah,
That-
it's
that's not
gonna
a-
just, you know, I mean, it's gonna give, I mean, if it's that close, you know, within days or weeks, well, then you decipher how far you're gonna pursue this, you know what I mean? But if you have a general window that, you know, weeks, year, month, you know what I mean, I think it would.
Well, we'll pursue it, I think.
Well,
I don't think that's the question.
No, that's great, you know, I mean, that's one thing of it is, you know, companies and, you know, I mean, again, as being a business owner, accountability, you know, I'm not perfect. If I do something for you, you know what I mean, and it happens to come back and, you know, it's faulty on my end, guess what? I charge you for a job that I did, and it's gonna be corrected, and there's not gonna be any fee, you know, and I just think that somebody needs to be accountable.
So the stickers I'm gonna order from you are going to be perfect?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I just have one thing I wanted to mention quick. I know that administration was handed a very small issue over the weekend that I think you engaged in some social media stuff that became a much bigger issue than it needed to be. And I'd like to take a minute to thank our administration team for handling it swiftly and the way they did. The only thing that I would like to see is to make sure that determination on how to handle that situation is handled consistently throughout the district. Because I know we do have a dress code in our district, and I see on a daily basis that a lot of things that probably violate that dress code. And with that being said, I don't expect Dr. Gump to be standing outside and, you know, turning people around if they're not properly dressed. But if we're going to make, I don't want to say an issue, but bring a concern, somebody from the community bring a concern with athletes' attire, that I think we need to make sure that carries into the buildings as well. We need to be consistent with it.
This was athletic teams?
Correct.
I wasn't real familiar with it.
So I'll just put out the issue that came up. The issue came up that apparently it sounds like there had been some coaches who came back and talked with some of their athletes that they weren't to not wear a shirt or not wear a uniform top or a tank top or something. And there was some pushback from the community surrounding that. And it sounds like it's been a relatively consistent rule for a long time. It wasn't something that just occurred and that the coaches were just recently reminded that this was part of the things that we do on a routine basis. And it sounds like it's been fairly applied, so it's applied to both boys and girls. It's not applied to one or the other. It's not applied to only one sport. So there was some talk amongst the community that it was applied selectively when it sounds like it was not. That sound like a fair representation of?
And I think, just so you're aware, I know that people like to express thoughts on social media, which is fair, and that's what people have the right to do. In terms of coming because they wanted to have conversation around it, I've only had conversation with one family that was productive. No one else has chosen to reach out in that manner.
And like I said, my point of the whole thing was I want to make sure as a district, so we don't continue to get criticized for
No,
doing
I hear
things
what you're saying.
not consistently, that we're consistent in that aspect and also inside of our buildings.
I would also point out that this policy is not unique to this district. It's a very common policy amongst the districts in the area.
You know, there's people with those concerns already that have expressed them. If those concerns are taken care of, I'd say probably 8 times out of 10, they're gonna dig for something else in the same manner. So, if you can, you know what I mean, take a stance to hush it before it becomes another issue for no reason, that's probably something to do.
Well, I think I can also safely say, and I think the entire board will agree with me, one of the things that was brought up was that the concern that it was a safety issue from the perspective of heat. And literally the clothing that they're able to wear provides the same level of ventilation as what they were suggesting.
Yeah.
And follows policy. So I think the board would take it seriously if we thought there actually was a safety issue underlying this, but what I could see, it was just a reminder of a policy that's always existed. I have one thing I'd like to say. I'd just like to recognize the amount of extra work that you're putting in for long-range planning, because I know you're actually putting in and driving the long-range planning committee, and that there's a substantial amount of extra work that's been going on sort of behind the scenes, and I just wanted to express the appreciation of that.
Thank you.
Because I know that offloads anyone else on the committee from having to do any of it, for one. And two, I know it makes it easier for the board and the administration as a whole, some of the work that you've been doing. So I just want to make that publicly known that you're advocating and working hard behind the scenes for the long-range future of the district as a whole.
Thank you. Great, well said. When's the report due? Is it December?
So they will have a midpoint update in October, and then they said they'd leave it to the board to determine if they wanted that into December or January based on the fact that December's reorg and if people would want it at that first meeting or not.
Okay.
Can I just acknowledge that Mr. Adams is with us this evening, and he'll be transitioning into the role of Assistant Business Manager, and we're certainly thankful for all he does for the district.
All right, I'm not going to ask you for a speech. 6-1, public comment. There's no one from the public here, so I'm going to assume someone's not going to come in last minute. And then 7-1, adjourn.
Second.
Motion second.